Today we're asking.
Yeah, we're not answering the questions. We're asking the questions, okay?
Okay. What's going on, guys? Today we are answering a question from one of our top fans, Matt. He says, does it bother you when people come in and make comments about pricing when they just don't know the market? Most of the time, it's people that don't know the market and expect an old game to be like $5 a piece or an old Game Boy to be around $20. So basically, like people not knowing the current market, does that bother you as a store owner?
Well, and they just think because it's old, it's worthless.
Yeah.
So,
which like we're in the video game hobby, we know that old does not mean worthless, and like I would say that that's like that for a lot of hobbies. Like,
yeah,
like just having the knowledge I have with video games, I know that out there somewhere, just because it's old does not mean that that's worthless. Right?
Oh, there's someone with a collection of old something, and it's worth money.
So there's a collection
just somebody
of everything. So yeah, so what do you think? Does it bother you when people do that? Like come to the store and
so it doesn't bother me because I feel like most of the time they're coming from a position of ignorance. So like you said, like they just don't know the market. And I think because what happens is when a system comes out, it's expensive. Then the next system comes out and the stuff before it, it's still worth something, but not as much. You can still trade towards the new one. And then it's when you get like kind of 2-3 generations behind, it's a cycle, right? So now it's seen as worthless, and people who didn't go back and collect, they just assume like, oh, like a PS1 must be worth nothing. If a PS5 is worth this much, a PS4, a PS3, they just think it goes down. When really it's like 5, 4, 3, and then 2 is kind of like up here because it's collectible again.
Yeah.
And so I don't really take it personally because I honestly think they're just coming from a position of ignorance.
Yeah.
And so if I take the time to explain it to them like they're 5 years old, and I don't mean that to be rude, I really just give a very simple explanation. This stuff's old, there's demand for it, and it's really it's harder to find because it is older, so there's not as much of it circulating around, and which causes the price to go up. And then most people are like, oh, okay, I had no idea. So someone will come in looking for Contra for the NES and expect it to be $5 because they think they're the only one that wants to play it. They think they're kind of unique. And I know...
And that's like a desirable game that people tend to keep in their collection.
Well, that too.
Even when they call their collection. So that game's mostly at home somewhere in someone's collection. So we don't get a lot of copies of that game.
Yeah. So when someone's getting into the hobby, the games they think of collecting are probably those popular games that all the other collectors already have. And if they're culling, they're not getting rid of.
That's right.
So that's hard to come by. When I started collecting NES games, and I thought, oh, maybe it'd be fun to try and get all of them. I honestly thought I was the only person in existence that thought it would be interesting to do that. And then you find out there's a whole community of people trying to do that. And that's why like you go look for a game online that sucks, like Pro Sport Hockey. And at that time, it was still like a $60, $70 game.
Yeah.
When most of the people collecting did not have that kind of money to throw around for something that was going to just sit on a shelf.
Totally.
So yeah, I definitely get it because I was ignorant when I first started collecting. So totally understandable.
That'd be a good question too. Like when you first started collecting, like things that you've learned since then.
Oh yeah, lessons learned. But that's a whole video.
Yeah, I like to educate people though, because people will come in sometimes and they don't know the prices, and so they come in, and I never take it like to answer the question. I don't take it personally. I don't take a lot of things personally. There's been like one or twice someone has attacked me personally. And like, of course, you get your...
Well, it's your fault the game's expensive.
Yeah, I'm like... Well, but I think, and people may think that. People actually may think that, but they don't say it, which is the way to go through life, by the way. You don't say everything that's in your head all the time. Suck it up and deal with it. But
I tell you what I'm thinking 100% of the time.
You're allowed to.
No filter.
Yeah. Joe's got no filter. But no, but like, let's say you come to the store and you're just like, these prices suck. Like people will walk in and walk around and then leave. I think maybe they were just like, man, these games are more expensive than I thought, but they didn't like take it out on me, So what I'm trying to say is like, I don't really have personal, like I've never really had a bad personal experience with that, but I like to educate people because sometimes they do come in and they're just like, wow. And you often hear people saying, oh, I have that, or I used to have that. Wow, that's worth that much. And they're like,
that makes them happy. They're like, when it benefits them, they're like, oh, this is awesome.
Yeah. So like, I'd say that happens far more often than someone being like, what do you mean it's this much? Or, they can't understand it. And one of the hard things too is like someone comes in looking for a certain game We talk about this all the time. Either it's a mom looking for a Christmas gift for her kid or something.
Oh yeah,
and
they
like,
have no idea.
They have no idea. Even if it's a game like, New Super Mario Brothers Wii, which is like, like a $45 game at our store, which sells all the time.
Yeah, we're actually running low.
Yeah, we're low on it. It sells all the time, so it's like it's not a $5 game. So,
no, definitely not.
And most of the time you educate them, you explain it, and they still buy it.
Yeah,
it's very rare they don't.
No, and if the game's good, like a game like Contra or New Super Mario Brothers, you're gonna get your $40-$50 worth out of it if you play it. It's fun. So
you always say that. You're like, if you're gonna buy like Melee for the GameCube,
but you could play that for thousands of hours in theory if you're playing with friends, like tournament style. So,
totally.
Or with Mario Kart, like you can play that forever.
Keep going.
Yeah.
So I mean that's it. And then like I touched on in the beginning, like it gives me perspective for other hobbies out there that I know that there's something out there that somebody wants, whether it's vinyl, old books, old tapes, VHS. There's a collector out there that wants all these old items, right? Like physical media still matters. People still want it.
Or I see those they're like those Pyrex, like Tupperware, like cooking things. And those things go for like hundreds of dollars.
I
have
not
I find mind-boggling.
Okay.
But yeah, they're like those ceramic like casserole dishes.
Oh,
and people will pay like
Le Creuset?
Yeah, you probably have like $2,000 worth of casserole dishes in your basement.
I have some Le Creuset. We got that as a wedding gift. We got like this.
Oh, there you go.
It is genuinely
this is
excellent
old stuff,
for cooking.
Yeah, this is like 70s, 80s, but
okay.
But yeah, like I just learned about that a few weeks ago, and who am I to judge?
Well, I mean, I guess if you're like a chef or whatnot, if you're into it,
like I have all this stuff here, and most people think it's worthless. So
and they're cooking food, which is arguably more important.
Now, I will add that the one thing I do hate are people who know the hobby and come in, and then they're like, "Well, this game's $200. I got it 5 years ago for $50. That's what it should be." And they think that like the magical time they bought it is like was the perfect time to buy it.
Yeah.
Like you can't think like that though. Like as more people get into a hobby, like it's basic economics. Your supply is static and your demand is going up. They're not making more of these old things, and more people are getting interested in the hobby. Yeah. Like we have new clients coming in all the time who just start collecting Nintendo, Super Nintendo, mostly Nintendo. Obviously, we've talked about that. And so the prices are higher because they're coming into a hobby kind of, 15 years after it really got big. It's like there's games on this shelf that I think Little Samson I paid $450 for, and that was like the top. And now what's it worth? Like $2,500, $3,000 bucks.
Yeah.
So but for me to go into a store and be like, it shouldn't be $3,000 because I paid $450 like 10 years ago. But doesn't make any sense.
Those are the kind of people, and you're like, okay, so by that logic, you would sell it at like a certain percentage based on the old price.
Oh yeah.
But no, they don't.
I'll buy it off you for $900.
Yeah. Oh no, but now they're like, that's like going into your collection and like selling it at the value it was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And like you wouldn't do that. You'd be like, well, no, I want today's value, but
I
want the prices from 9 years ago.
Something very close to today's value for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'd say that's like the one thing I hate is like the people that know the market that think like the price should be the magical price that they bought it at, and then that's it. Like, yeah. So.
Yeah, that price. It's a lot of that is out of our hands. I mean, as more and more people get into the hobby, and there's fewer games out there in the global supply.
And I would say too, the people selling to us have become more knowledgeable since we've been open because it's a lot easier to look things up.
Yeah,
more people know that video games are worth money, so a lot of people selling to us are sending links. They've put everything in price charting, so they have an idea of what this stuff is worth. Already, which didn't used to be the case. So we're typically paying more for things, so we're going to charge more, and the market dictates it. So that's kind of
and that's since we just bought a collection last week, a Game Boy and PS2 collection.
Yeah, and
the owner, who was it was his childhood stuff. He just put it into price charting, so it gives him a number, so he knows roughly what it's worth, quote unquote.
Yeah,
and, I put that there because like some of the games, okay, the average price selling online is this. But that doesn't mean locally that's the price. Like,
exactly.
Like Hot Shots Golf, it's.
Well, we also have like 20 copies of that. So, so we can't value that game.
Eventually we just give it away in a bundle. So it's $8 online, but realistically to us, it's like a $1 or $2 game.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, that like but some of the games are worth more and some are worth less. And
well, I'm sure he was surprised when he put it all in. Like that King's Field game was like 100 and something.
Yeah.
Like, but it's old, so it's only worth $5.
It's funny in the video about that, I totally like glossed over that game. I'm like, hey, Kingsfield.
Kingsfield.
And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, that wasn't what I was supposed to talk about.
That's okay. It's
funny.
only a $5 game. It's old.
$5.
Don't worry about it.
It's an old $5 game. So okay, maybe we'll.
So we're only worth $5 we're old.
We'll end on that. So I mean, a question to ask you is like, when you first got into the hobby, were you sort of surprised at the prices? And then how did you feel about that? And let us know about that, or maybe what do you think about maybe having to educate people that in your community about that?
Yeah, I'd love to hear what the community thinks on that one. For sure.
Cool. All right, cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys.
Trust me, this saves me so much time because I basically have to slowly scroll through the video and find an image where like both of our faces don't look like we just orgasmed. So I'm doing this. Like,
you're doing the question.
I don't know. You can do it if you want.
Face palm.
Okay, enough.
Okay. that just felt really good.
That's good. Okay, so